important conversation in this era in Nigeria's history development. Thank you so much. Our guest is going to be seen on this new designation of new nation by the UN as a country of particular concern, and is and I think our guest today is and to give us the kind of information we need. And I really think that every single Nigerian really needs from at this time. CPC means what this CPC means and its implications for Nigeria. Our guest is a professor of law at the Catholic University of America's Columbus School of Law in Washington, D.C. And has been a member of that facility. That's almost 45 years. That's the year in which I graduated. Amazing. And he served as interim dean from 1990 and director of the University's Institute of Policy Research, Catholic Studies from 2017 to 2019. In 2019 September, in his first term as president, Donald J. Trump nominated our guest to serve as assistant human rights and the U.S. Senate confirmed his appointment at that time as assistant policy and foreign assistance programs on human rights and democracy issues such as free and fair elections, internet freedom, the growth of surveillance of the state. His work on labor issues focused on State Department and interagency efforts to ensure that business supply chains do not include goods or services produced by slave or forced labor. He also served as the State Department's special representative for Tibetan issues. So he is more than qualified. He is more than qualified to talk on this particular subject. He was co-author of is a prolific writer on himself, and he has been advisor to churches and religious organizations from a variety of religious traditions and is involved in raising civil rights issues from free speech and free exercise to employment law and tax policy. Bob, Mr. Professor Robert Dastro, you are most welcome. And I really must thank you specially for taking time your schedule to be with us here on the ALG NLS. You have been with us before, but I think now you're going to be speaking to the heart of a subject most familiar with, that you have been involved with, and that you have an understanding of. Welcome to the program, and I hope all is well.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I think we may be. Are we frozen, or are we actually? Is it working?
We can hear you.
Okay, very good. All right. So, well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I think I'll start by saying, in one respect, the president's naming Nigeria as a country of particular concern had exactly the effect that Congress wanted the designation to have when it passed the International Religious Freedom Act back in the late 1990s. And that is, they have everybody's attention. Now the question is, how do we as Americans and you as Nigerians work together as friends to solve a problem that's been pointed out? And it's always easy to point the finger and to accuse other people of not doing what they're supposed to do. But the task I think before us today is to, is at least my task, is to explain to you what does this mean? And then, the
Exactly,
task that I set out
Bob.
for you, if I
And
could be so
that's
bold,
where
is
we would
to
want you to.
suggest that we need to come up with a plan so that we can all work together to help people on the ground. I mean, in the end, Nigeria and the United States are great friends. We should remain great friends. And if we do this the right way, in a cooperative and listening relational way, I think we will do some good things.
Thank you so much, Bob. And I think where we want to start from, where we really want to start from, we're going to show a video for the next 3 minutes. And after that video, I'd like you to just explain to us, because I want to assume probably zero knowledge of some people on the platform, what does it really mean to be a country of particular concern on a general basis? What does that mean? That's number one. Number two, have there been any other countries in your knowledge, to your knowledge, that have been designated countries of particular concern? And what did that mean to the US? And what did that imply to the country? And so on and so forth. And how did that situation come to some kind of termination? Either the US moved in there and did what they needed to do, or the country changed what it was doing, and it came off that being called a country of particular concern. So I want you to just explain in a general basis from the US point of view what it takes to become a country of particular concern on a general basis. But first of all, let us play this video to give a context, and then you would then please ask those questions. This was a video of a gentleman who went to the Congress, I believe, the Senate, and he spoke concerning this. And maybe people are thinking that this is the video that triggered off the whole thing. But I know that for a long time, there have been discussions on this issue of country of particular concern. We were there, I think, in 2019, thereabouts. Biden took us off in 2021 or 2020 something. And then now we're back there. So let's just watch this video very quickly, and then we take it from there. Thank you.
I'm Wilfred Chikbana, but appear here as the bishop, the Catholic Bishop of Makurdi Diocese, the capital of Benue State in Nigeria. I am the shepherd of one of the 4 dioceses, Catholic dioceses in Benue. We have others, Anglican, Methodist, and Pentecostals, which sort of Benue State has a population of about 6.1 million people, 2 million of whom are those under my care as the bishop of the diocese. Benue State is about 98% Christian, with very few Muslims living in towns. Nigeria and eventually my diocese and the state of Benue have become, in recent years, one of the most dangerous and insecure places for Christians. Christians and Muslims are nearly evenly divided among Nigeria's large population of over 200 million persons. Islamist extremists are fiercely contesting the possession, control, and governing law of the land, especially in the country's northern and central regions, the latter of which is where Benue is located. There are constant ethnic, political, and religious conflicts over land and allegiance. Constitutionally, we are a secularist country, but our unity has been fragile. Political and religious actions and even public speech have been carefully managed to avoid accusations of religious bias and political tensions. Today, the clear influence of Islamist extremists has changed the traditional social dynamics of tribe ethnicity, religion, and the social status in Nigeria. Because just recently, at the beginning of the Ramadan fast, 12 states in northern Nigeria have declared closed schools so that they attend to this. And you can imagine which other country in the world does that. Saudi Arabia is not doing it. Afghanistan is not doing it. Baghdad is not doing it, but then Nigeria is practicing. What kind of Islam are they practicing? 12 states, and not only Muslims are living in these places. What happens with the educational program or curriculum of the country? But this is what we are going through every day in Nigeria. A long-term Islamic agenda to homogenize the population has been implemented over several presidencies through a strategy to reduce and eventually eliminate the Christian identity of half of the population. This strategy includes both violent and non-violent actions, such as the exclusion of Christians from positions of power and adoption of such church members, the raping of women, the killing and exploitation of Christians, the destruction of churches and farmlands of Christian farmers, followed by the occupation of such lands by the Fulani herders, and also changing the names of these villages. They are taking over the places, so you clearly see an expansionist approach and Islamic, and then they are making the people now flee and leave their villages, and they conquer it. The quest to Islamalize the land appears high on the agenda of some of the powerful and influential Muslims in Nigeria. There is a campaign to take land to spread Islam, and there is the hemorrhaging of Christian farmers from the central region of Nigeria and Benue State, and Makurdi Diocese in particular, as they are forced to abandon fertile lands that used to feed the nation, which
or we come to a conclusion of that, and then maybe we will then conclude it later on. So, Bob, can you please tell us what does it mean to be a country of particular concern on a general basis? What does the country have to do to qualify or to become addressed as such? And have there been any other such countries before in the past in the US? And how did that come to some kind of headwind or conclusion?
Okay, let me start by I will answer just about every question you've just asked, but I want to get everybody focused for a minute on the outcome we're looking for, because in foreign affairs, which is what this issue is from the perspective of the United States and from the perspective of domestic affairs in Nigeria, what we want is all the killing to stop. We want the banditry to stop. We want the displacement of land, people's land to stop. We want people to be able to move back home, and what we want is prosperity and peace and really good relationships, among the United States and Nigeria, and also, I might add, to actually be working together as friends and partners across the ocean, because we have an awful lot in common. We have an awful lot we can do. But the reason that I ask you to start with the outcomes we're looking for is because we're never going to know whether or not we have been successful unless we measure it against the outcomes we're looking for. And unfortunately, a lot of times foreign policy is about process. And so let me talk a little bit about the process that results in a country of particular concern designation. I mean, it comes from it comes from Congress asking the Department of State, and in particular the Secretary of State, to report annually on human rights issues that we see, in other countries. And we also have an awful lot of human rights reporting that goes on here in the United States about how our own government works. So the idea is that if you see severe and sustained problems, like the bishop, testified against in his hearing here in Congress, their pressure will build politically as it has done over the last few years to have the State Department look into it. And we have been looking into it for many years now. And in fact, I was in the room when the former Secretary Pompeo designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern back in 2020. And so I know the process very well. But, the one question that you asked, well, who else has been designated? So we want to see what kind of company that you have been put in. Myanmar, China, Cuba, Eritrea, Iran, Nicaragua, North Korea, Pakistan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. So there are a lot of countries, but there's an awful lot of countries where religious liberty and the kinds of killing and displacement we're seeing, it happens in a lot of places. And so there are a lot of places that never get designated that probably should. So you need to understand that the designation is the final step of not only an investigation process, but it's also a political process because everything in foreign affairs is political. And so what we have is a lot of people here in the United States who are concerned. And notice the word concern. Just because I'm concerned doesn't mean I'm doing anything. I can't stop. When I say, well, look, I'm really concerned about the Nigerian government not doing what it needs to do to protect people. And when I went to Nigeria and was received very warmly, by the government of Nigeria, during COVID, I might add, which was a heavy lift for the government. So I appreciate the hospitality they showed me. And I began to get a better sense, as the assistant secretary, and one of my fellow assistant secretaries came with me, and Secretary Pompeo's chief of staff, and we had a chance to talk to people, and that is what I'm hoping will come out of this conversation. That we need to do is not only talk to each other, but we need to listen very hard. Because I thought that the frequently asked questions that were put in the flyer, I thought they were excellent questions. And so, if you actually think about, what are those next steps, what we need to figure out is how do we stop the killing? How do we get people back to where they need to be? How do we stop the displacement process? How do we stop the people who are riding mopeds and have machine guns? These are questions of how to. And I must say that the people on the Nigeria side of the Atlantic know far more about how to get this problem solved than we do over here. We can express our concern and we can make suggestions about what our government might do and what diaspora groups might do, but you all are the source of information that will help us to better understand how we can help you as friends.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. I'm going to be asking a few questions. I mean, first of all, what gives the United States the right to get into the domestic affairs of other nations? I thought that this might best be something done by the UN or something. I would like a response on that. Number two, the issue now seems as though it's because Christians have been killed. If Muslims had been killed and all that, would the US have taken this same position? Okay. And then number three, what sort of investigation and research was done by the US process to go through, and what does it imply now for Nigeria or any that is now so designated?
Well, let me start with the first question, which is what gives the United States the right to interfere in other people's internal affairs? That's a really good question, and I thought that the introductory uh, message of people singing the Nigerian national anthem was very good. I mean, Nigeria is a sovereign country, and we ought not to, quote, interfere in people's internal affairs. But the fact of the matter is that Nigeria and the United States have enormous relationships with each other. So we cooperate economically. We help the Nigerian. We have ongoing military relationships with the United States. We work together to fight pirates in the Gulf of Guinea. And so, I mean, the way the designation is made, what we've done, and I think it's also significant that the designation was not made by the Secretary of State. It was made by the president himself. Because the president himself has made it clear that he wants for every other country what he wants for the United States: sovereignty, freedom, borders, security, and quite frankly, to do well economically. And so the question is not how do we do we interfere in your internal affairs? It's like, how can we do business together in a way that makes everybody more safe and secure? That's probably the better way to put it. Next question. Would we be just as concerned if it were Muslims? Of course we would. And I worked very hard as special representative for Tibetan affairs to make sure that the United States programs supported the Tibetan Buddhist community. We have declared in China they're going after Muslims, and we've designated them for that. Now other countries designate us back, so it's not just completely one-sided. But the fact of the matter is, I want to keep coming back to this question of how do we stop the killing? How do we get people back home? How do we trace and figure out who the bad guys are so that we can stop them, try them, and put them in jail if necessary? So this is a question of how to. I think all of us agree that it's a good idea. The question is, how do we do it? Did that answer your questions, Pastor?
I think so. I think so. So President Donald Trump had given the impression that he was going to move in. What that really implies, we do not know. Is he moving in with the troops? Is he going to be a military thing? Is he moving in diplomatically, and so on and so forth? What is he thinking of in terms of moving in? That's number one. Number two, what can the US do if it is proven? I did say, maybe you forgot to answer that. What process did you go through? Maybe you've answered it already. But if you can touch on that, that's fine. So what is the US now going to do to help Nigeria solve these issues? How do we stop the killings? How do we ensure that there are no IDP camps? Why should there still be IDP camps in Nigeria 5, 6, 7 years after the first incidents of creating an IDP camp? I mean, you create an IDP camp because the people are displaced. Hopefully, it's temporary. After you solve the problem of where they're displaced from, why don't you take them back to their homes and rebuild the homes? Why are they still in camps? And so on and so forth. What's the thinking in the US why these are still in camps. And one of the things that I've heard being bantered around is that the US gave us quite a lot of aid to help us fight banditry and things like that. I don't know if you know about that and whether they're a bit anxious that they don't think the aid has been judiciously used. Maybe you want to speak to that.
Yes, the first and foremost, yes, there are a lot of you asked first about what was the process. The process is actually a lot more informal than it looks, and the so what we've got public source, intelligence, which is basically people like us talking to one another. What have you seen? Bringing the bishop over, bringing other religious leaders over. I mean, I work with Christian, Muslim, and other religious groups all the time, and one of the most precious commodities we have is the intelligence, is the information we get from people who live on the ground. And that's not, and oftentimes that intelligence that we're getting from people on the ground, what we call open source intelligence, is often better than the official intelligence. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that we're sharing information, accurate information about what's happening. Because what we want is for our respective governments, the United States and Nigeria, to be working together to fix things. Now, you raised, Pastor, you raised the question, has the United States and the Nigerian military, been involved together? Yes, they have. In fact, we have supplied, when I was there in the spring of 2021, one of the biggest items on the agenda for the Nigerian government was the delivery of helicopters that they would use in Northeast. So there's a very close relationship between the United States government, especially the military, but also in matters of trade. And believe me, all of us are in favor of getting people who are displaced out of camps and back home. Well, but you also have to think about, what are they going to do when they get home? Are they going to go back to farming? Are we going to have jobs for them? That's where this President Trump, is very interested in making trade deals. And trade deals are the things out of which jobs are created, both in Nigeria and here in the United States. So this question, and do we want to help everybody? Yeah, we do. If you were to watch the news here in the United States, we have our own problems with banditry and crime. So we have a lot more in common in terms of how do we solve specific problems here at home. And I think we can do an awful lot together.
Excellent. So what do you think the next steps are going to be? Now that we've been designated a country of particular concern, is there a process that the US is going to follow through with us? Or what do we need to do? What does the Nigerian government, for example, need to do to respond to this?
Well, the Nigerian government is a big place, just like the United States government is a big place. And so I think that our Nigerian friends need to help us understand what are the highest priorities. Okay, because that's a question I don't know. I don't live there. And we have a saying, one of our famous former speakers of the House, the late Tip O'Neill, always said, all politics is local. And so the question is, we have to start locally. There has to be support at the local level in Nigeria for solving problems. But once you identify the problems, then we have to put our heads together. And this, I think, is where the diaspora and other people who were interested, that's why we had the bishop. He came and talked about Benue State. There's other states in Nigeria, and we need to hear about, if we have resources and if we have companies, for example, that want to invest, well, maybe we should look at investing in places where we want people to go back home. I mean, that's not necessarily going to work, but it's a good idea. And we should be able to explore it together.
But who do we then deal with, and who do you deal with? Are you going to be dealing with the government? Is it a government to government thing? Or can any individual in Nigeria just walk up to which department? The Senate, the Department of State? Who do we talk to? So what's the process? What do people need to do to follow? And how are you going to respond? How quickly are you going to respond? Is it going to take another stretch of conversation here and there? Is there really even going to be a response? All this effort that people are being asked to put in, and so on and so forth. And how far can you respond? What are the limits of what you can do, if any at all?
Well, I think that there are several answers to the question. The first thing is government to government is its own track. That's what we call track one, right? People to people is what we call track two diplomacy. And because both the United States and Nigeria are democracies, we need to build support at the ground level to get our governments to do things. Because otherwise, we're both in the unenviable position of saying, why don't you do something? Well, is what we need. We don't need good ideas. There's lots of good ideas out there. What we need is concrete plans. And that I think is going to come with conversations between the Nigerian community here and other communities here and the Nigerian communities of the states of Nigeria. Because one of the things I think Americans find very difficult to understand is that Nigeria does not have local police departments. You have a national police force. And for us here in the United States, it's hard to get our heads around the idea that if somebody is trying to break into my home and I live in the middle of the country somewhere like Colorado or Kansas, I have to call Washington, I have to call the FBI, to get somebody to come. That doesn't make much sense to us. But I do know that the United States government is involved with the Nigerian military, and we have encouraged and offered to train, local police departments if the parliament will agree to it. And I understand they have done so in the past, but it's still not been pushed through. But we believe that the government is most effective when it's closest to the people. So that doesn't mean calling Abuja or Washington, D.C. It means, working at the local level. And that's where the economic development is going to happen too.
Well, indeed, Nigeria does have a national police force, but it is distributed across the counties in a local way. So there's a police station reasonably near enough to where you live, and you can go in there and make your reports in terms of what you need done and so on and so forth. And to some extent, the CP there or the DSP or whoever is head of that station has some rights to go in there and manage the situation. Although sometimes, and at the end of the day, they need to go back to Abuja or to go back to the first headquarters to get some clarifications. But right there on the ground, they can move and do what they need to do. They have some kind of limited power to enforce policing in the local areas. So even though we do have a national police force, they have a sort of local influence. But what is being pushed for now is to have the American type of police, where you have county police, local government police, where you have state police, and where you also have a national police force, and each person sort of being a little bit autonomous and doing what they need to do. But you do get local police attention right here and there in Nigeria, and there's a police station near you not too far away. And you can even build your own police station and invite the police to come and take a presence there. And it's been done before in the past, and so on and so forth. So I think we have a little bit of a mixed mash of the British system where there is a national police, but a lot of local influence also of that police. So that is the way we work. And we're quite happy to work with the US or with the diaspora groups to see how we can get this done. What is still hanging in the air a little bit for me, which I'm hoping you can hammer down on, is if someone like me now, I see my parents or my friends or my relatives in IDP, in Makodi or in Sapele or wherever, how can I get the attention of the US and the response of the US to come to that particular area and see how they can help me solve a problem? How do we do person to government? Or is that possible or is that not possible? And what can I get out of it?
Well, I mean, let's start with the and I've seen in some of the questions coming across the chat that people are concerned that we Americans are going to come in. I mean, this is your home. It's not our home. And so we have to be invited in. So the idea that we're a country that Nigeria has been designated doesn't mean that we're going anywhere. But you have a right to understand what we're spending money on in Nigeria. We're spending a lot of money in Nigeria to help the Nigerian government. I can't answer the question without seeing the numbers. Whether or not it's being spent effectively, that's a question that has to be answered at home. But most importantly, this does not mean that the United States is going to be sending troops or anybody else to Nigeria unless we're invited. Nigeria is a sovereign country, and we respect that sovereignty. The question is, if we say, look, we want to come and invest. The Chinese have been arguing, oh, this is all just a big excuse to take the minerals. My reaction is, we can do a lot of business together in a really good way, but we don't come unless we're invited. And once we get there, we're going to need that police protection if our people are going to be investing. And so it is it's much more informal, Pastor, than you're talking about. I mean, you have to start at that local level. You have to talk to people like me. You have to talk to the diaspora groups, and you have to invite people to come. And once you get that kind of democratic groundswell, then you can get the government to do something. I do know for a fact, I've talked to friends who work at the State Department. They're working on kind of gathering a picture of what we see from our perspective. That picture is going to have to be tested against facts on the ground that only you know. And so what I'm proposing here is not any kind of unilateral intervention. That never works. The only thing that will work is long-term cooperation that starts at the ground level, people in Benue or in South, or in any of the states. And so this is what I really want to do is disabuse the notion that we're going anywhere without being invited.
But I do know that the US has been to places before without being invited. In the Obama, many times you've been there. You've been to Nicaragua, you were not invited. You went to Osama bin Laden and took him out. I don't think anybody invited you. You went to, what's the name? Libya. You took out Gaddafi. I don't think anybody invited you. I think you went to Congo Democratic Republic. You took out the president there. Nobody invited you. So I don't know what you're saying by being invited. You've done a lot. And in fact, there was a trending that there was an American chap under distress I don't know if it's true or not. And the US came in and took out the chap and left. So you've never been invited to places before. So there's no
you're
government. Let me tell you straight away up front. Nigerian government is not going to invite you to come in here and do nothing about nothing. They are going to ask you for aid. They're going to ask you for money. They are going to ask you for tanks and things, but nobody's going to wait to invite you. So if you really want to do this effectively, we need to think it through.
Well, no, that's exactly right. And that's what I'm suggesting. And when I say invited in, what I mean is, the Nigerian government is very interested in having American investment. They're inviting that all the time. Well, one of the big problems that I hear talked about here in Washington is, well, we would love to go and invest there. What do you need? And how, when we go, are we supposed to ensure that we get a return on our investment? And how do we know that we're not going to get robbed? I mean, this is the American on the investment side, the Nigerian government and the American government are talking about that all the time. We're not talking about military intervention. That is a bad idea. Look at how Libya turned out. It turned out horribly. I think this administration understands that question, but nonetheless, if we're going to invest in each other, that has to be done by way of invitation. And if I invite you to my house, I have to make sure you're safe when you get here.
Well, I don't know. We need to think this through. I think this has gone a little bit beyond investment. We're talking about lives at stake here, and we're
Yes.
talking about desperate situations. So I think it's gone a little bit beyond investment. Even recently, last week in Edo State, where I come from, a group of Americans and diplomats and Austrians and Germans and Europeans came into a place for the Museum of West African Arts and whatever, MOA. And the response from the government there was outrageous. They just shoot the people away and so on and so forth. So I don't know if you heard about that. And it's really become a really tough situation for us here. And therefore, it's a little bit beyond investment. It's a little bit.
Oh, it's way beyond investment. No, just as one of the people in the chat just said, this is about killing, right? And it's about killing. It's about the most fundamental human right each one of us has is the right to walk down the street with our families and not get killed. I mean, if you don't have physical security, you don't have anything. And we have similar problems, by the way, in some of our cities where it's just dangerous to walk down the street. But the at the end of the day, the only way we can really help each other, and this is where I get criticized all the time, and I frankly admit it, is that human rights is about doing things together to have each other's back. And so unless we have an honest appraisal of, look, don't come in and do the stupid things that you did in Libya or in DRC. Good friends can say that to each other. Here is what we need from you. And we should be able to come back in the same way and say, and here's what we need from you. Because otherwise we're not helping each other. We're talking past each other. And so, when I raised the question of, well, is it possible to build human rights into a trade agreement? The answer is absolutely yes, it is. Because you can't have, let's say a palm oil pressing plant unless you have security, unless you have energy, unless you have workers. I mean, so what I'm saying here is that we need to change the conversation and say, look, our goal, that's why I started the first issue, stop the killing. The second issue, how do we get people who are displaced back home? that is, and we have to know who the bad guys are. Who are the bandits? Who are the terrorists? We need to know that just because we can't figure out what to do about them unless we know who they are. But the one thing I can tell you is that people around the world are blaming the killing in Nigeria and other places, I might add, on climate change, which is one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard in my life. The idea of killing happens because people kill people. That's as simple as that. So that's why I keep coming back to what is our goal? And we need to have more conversations like this about what can we do has got to come from the ground level in Nigeria. And that's why I'm so grateful to not only to the people who organize this meeting, but I hope you'll organize a lot more, and then we can start to have the conversations we need. I mean, I helped organize a meeting between a governor, and the governor of Benue State and the chief agriculture commissioner of Virginia. I mean, we can do things state to state. We can do things city to city. We can do things, you can have local police cooperating with each other. We got to build this better relationship together.
All right, thank you. I'm going to let you go in a few. Well, I'm going to get off and allow people to ask their own questions and
Yes,
so on and
please.
so forth in a few minutes. But I just want to ask one or two questions, and you can plead the fifth if you do not have the answers. I would allow you to do that. And it is something you insinuate. Definitely, the killings is not due to climate change. Anybody who is talking about that is just being economical with information. Has nothing to do with climate change. It has a lot to do with territory. It has a lot to do with religion. It has a lot to do with banditry. And it has a lot to do with land and things like that, and some of it is political. And that's why I want to land. I don't know how much information the US has as to those who are behind these killings, because the bandits and the people who have done them are very, very well armed, very, very well equipped. So they must be funded from somewhere. That's number one. I don't know how much information is available. Also, even people in Nigeria, a few retired generals and one or two other people have said, and maybe political friends or foes or enemies have said that the government is complicit. It was said that the former head of state, I think it was Abacha, that said so, that if insecurity persists for longer than a given period of time in a country, it must mean that the government of that country or that local area is a little bit complicit or is looking the other way. I don't know how much information you have in this direction. And really, you did say also that the US has spent a lot of money in this place. What happened to the money? What reports were you giving? And what is the effect of that money that you spent? And then I'm going to hand over to Sonny and Jumoke to conduct the question and answer session. Please, Bob, let's hear you.
No, I'm ready for questions, and I think there's no reason really to take the Fifth Amendment. I mean, Nigeria is a country of more than 200 million people. It's extremely diverse. You've got ethnicity, you've got religion, you've got all these differences, and we cannot talk if we want to reduce everything to religious freedom, then we're going to have problems because we're not addressing the other issues. Your point about how do we know where the money's coming from to arm these bandits and the terrorists? That's one of the things I'm going to be talking about to people here in Washington tomorrow. So I mean, it's an ongoing conversation. And so why don't I shut up and listen to questions that people have?
All right. I will let you go. You pleaded the fifth in a very, very smooth and nice
No, I'm
way.
happy to answer more questions. I don't need to take the fifth.
No, but I did ask you that the monies that the US has spent so far,
Ah, yes.
what did
Well,
you what was your response? Number two, it's been rumored or suggested or implied that members of the Nigerian government or the members of the Nigerian Defense Forces might be complicit in this perpetuation of
uh,
not just religious killings, but of banditry, of all manners of Fulani herdsmen, farmer herdsmen clashes and things like that. And I mean, for example, some 200 or something girls were abducted about 4 or 5 years ago during the time of President Goodluck Jonathan. We've been screaming, bring back our girls, bring back our girls. It takes an operation to take those girls out of their school, and nothing has happened. A few of them ran back. The US took them in. They ran to the US. I hear they live in different lives now. But most of the girls are still out there. Nobody could speak. And I find it a little bit ridiculous that a whole group of girls could be moved around at night in trucks and the government does nothing about it. The government of that day, the government of this day, I don't get it. So I don't know what your thoughts are.
well, let me start with that point. That's the reason why we like local police in the United States, because they you're distributing the power to protect people. And yeah, I think that there probably are people who are complicit. We know that here in the United States, there are people who are complicit in the drug trade. So corruption happens everywhere. That's part of the human condition. The other question is a really good one, which is where's the money going? And one of the things that I learned in my time at the State Department was that is one of the hardest questions to get the answer to. And I am more than happy to volunteer to work with any of you who want to chase the money. I'll chase it from this side, you chase it from that side. But in the end, there's an answer. And follow the money will give you answers to questions you don't want to know the answer to.
Very good. I'll leave it at that. Jumoke and Sonny, please take on the questions and answers. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And I want to thank you, Bob, for the awesome job that you're doing and for your love for Nigeria and all that you've been, even for the United States government. And I'm sure that somebody is going to take you up on your offer to follow the money and chase the money down.
Okay, so let's get questions so that people don't feel left out.
Yeah, we'll take questions. Okay. The way we do the questions and answers is that we're going to be taking a couple of maybe 3 questions together, and you may want to write them down. I will really plead, and my name is Pastor Sonny, and thank you very much, Bob Dastro, for all you've said so far. There are quite a lot of people on the platform, and there are a lot of hands up. So I will plead with all those that want to ask questions, please go direct to your question. We have 90 seconds max, so that we can take as many people as possible. I really, really plead. I am begging you all. Thank you for complying. So we'll take the first person. Your name is not there. Please, can you tell us your name? FO120. Unmute. Tell us your name and go ahead with your question. Then we'll take Inze and Boniface Chizia.
Sorry, this is Afolabi Ajidan.
Okay, all right, son.
Okay, just 2 quick questions. My first question is, if you stop the killing, how can you guarantee? How will you ensure that the banditries and the killings will not start again and come back? That's the first question. And the second question is very simple. You bordered on it a little bit, but not really. Nothing goes for nothing. So if America was to come Nigeria was to ask America to come in and ask for help, what would America want in return? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll take Nze. Thank you for keeping it brief. Nze, go ahead.
Do you want me to answer, or do we
No.
want to get a
Let's take three. We'll take three
Yeah,
people at
let's
a
get
time.
three. Yeah. Good.
Then you answer that.
Good.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nze Oswago. I'm not actually asking questions, but just to throw more light or give further information on the topic being discussed. Let me start by saying that medically, when you do a proper diagnosis, you will be able to have a proper treatment. In Nigeria, the comments and the choice of words are highly political. The word banditry and other things are not correct. Those are words the government chose in order to deceive the Nigerian masses and everybody who is interested in solving the problem. The truth is, you can never be a president in Nigeria if the kingmakers do not support you. The kingmakers are not the masses who cast their vote. Rather, the few who are like Colossus and strive over the entire political system. Hello?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So yeah, let me quickly round up. So the truth is, discussion between Nigerian government and the US government will end in the usual way. The only language Nigerian government will hear is to eliminate forcefully the so-called bandits, but they are terrorists. The aim is just to kill the Christians politically correct. And about the money, where it goes, the money US sends in goes
Sir,
into private
apologies,
pockets,
sir.
and
Your time is up.
large amount of it is used to sponsor the terrorists that
Okay.
they use in order to Islamize the nation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Boniface Chizia.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bob. Well, let me first of all say that America has a role to play in the world. Let's not make any bones about that. Somebody has that responsibility to play. And so America is playing it, and they should go ahead and play it, and they should not give any apologies. We might argue and quarrel about the method which Donald Trump adopts. That's a different ballgame. We have Nigeria, 200 million plus people, and we have a crisis on our hands here. It's going to destabilize the world, not just the West African region. So it's very important. We are not going to be able to solve this problem. Let's not also deceive ourselves. Let's not play the ostrich. We cannot solve it because we are conflicted. We are compromised. We see the bandits as our kids and kin, and we're not being able to go after them. So I think that America should begin by identifying the sponsors and blocking their accounts, blocking them everywhere, denying them access to America. I think that's the earlier that started, the better for all concerned. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Okay, a few comments, maybe one or two questions. You want to take that before we move ahead?
Sure. I mean, I think that the United States is already very involved in Nigeria. We do all kinds of business with Nigeria. Our militaries work together, but stopping the killings is something we've been complaining about for a long time. And the government doesn't seem to want to take any responsibility for fixing the problem. And that's why if I had, from my own wish list would be, let's get really good local police people to protect people. And it's like I shouldn't have to, if I'm in a local community, I shouldn't have to, if I build my own police station, it doesn't necessarily mean anybody's going to come, but if we have police who are well trained and well disciplined, and I mean like well disciplined, and they don't take bribes, and they're nice to people because their job is to protect people. If we have local community policing like that, which I'm sure there are lots of police departments here in the United States who would love to help people on the local level, but that requires some consent on the part of the government. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, otherwise you're not going to get the investment you need, because nobody's going to put a bunch of money in a local community and then have somebody take it from them, or worse, kill the people they send over. So, I mean, this is a problem for both sides. And the more we talk about this, and the more you get your frustrations out, because we have to be willing to listen as much as talk. I don't know if I answered the questions or not.
Okay, all right. That's fair enough. We'll move on to the other people. Redzi Jugo, Dr. Kabiru Mohammed, and Yemisi Ramson-Kuti. I'll take you in that order. I hope we'll just keep the questions brief and our comment brief so that Bob can take in more people. Go ahead, Redzi Jugo.
Okay, good day. Can you hear me, sir?
We can. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Redzi Jugo. I am, just for context, because I think this is important, I am from Plateau State. I am from the Irigwe. I'm a board of trustee member of the Irigwe Development Association, one of the communities that have been ravaged much more than we can care to want to relieve on a daily basis. So I felt I should put that as a context. Now, let me make this very clear, especially to Mr. Bob and Pastor Itwa. Thank you for all that you've been doing. The point we need to really understand, and this is where my issue is at. I have seen too many times this whole concept of the military or the security agents being complicit. I can reel out instances right from the top of my head at this moment. My question generally is this: being that we are at a place where there is more or less evidence to show that there is complicity, or those who head some of these security agencies, or the individuals who are within the security agencies are already compromised. There has to be a way to be able to circumnavigate where necessary. And I say this with all due respect because I'm also a student of international law. So I do know what the laws are. But when you have a situation whereby you may not be able to get the kind of cooperation that you need from a federal government, then there has to be another way around it. You can see in recent times when this pronouncement was made about designating Nigeria a country of concern, instead of using the lifeline for diplomacy to speak to the handicaps or to the shortcomings of our security apparatus and be able to ask for help and collaboration.
You have 10 seconds.
America,
10 seconds, please.
We saw people going out to try and whitewash or to put a diplomatic spin on what is really going on. So it leaves us thinking that we may not be the focal point for our nation's concern. So what do you do when you have all of the evidence to show that there's a reason for us to be designated as a country of concern, but the state or the federal government is reluctant to acknowledge that there's actually killings of children, women and children in these villages? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. I hope Bob is listening. We'll take one last question in this segment. Dr. Kabir. Dr. Kabir Mohammed, go ahead. Hello?
We've asked him to unmute. You can unmute, sir.
Yeah, I think he has unmuted. Just maybe he's speaking and we are not hearing him.
Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Okay, is this Dr.
Hello?
Kabir?
Yeah, I'm the one speaking.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I said I'm speaking from southern Kaduna State in Nigeria.
Okay.
As you all know, Kaduna faces this multi-ethno-religious crisis where Muslims are perceived to be minority and also face existential challenges. So any effort or attempt by anybody to cut and bring to end this crisis is a welcome idea. But my question and worry is that we all know the challenges and manipulation coming from our politicians and corruption that hinders any effort to do away with this crisis. How can this effort from America control this manipulation by politicians and corruption and see to the end of this crisis? Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Have I taken 3 already, or that was 2?
That was 2. I think you can take one more.
Okay. Yemisi Ransom Kuti, go ahead. Let's unmute her.
Thank you, Pastor Sonny, and thank you, Prof. Dastro, for your erudite presentation. I just have 2 questions. One is your statement about climate change not being one of the issues that needs to be addressed. And some of the reports I have come across is that the fact that the erosion of the lakes and the grazing ground of the areas in the north, the Chad, the Lake Chad, and all that, where herders used to graze. The fact that climate change has affected all of that area has led to the downward migration of these herders. So I would like to find out if you know any more about how that is an element that needs to be addressed in the process of addressing desertification and those sort of things. Now, the second question is the fact that I did a tour of the Southwest looking at these insecurity issues a while back. And what was clearly observed was that in areas where there's good cooperation between traditional leaders, stakeholders, and the citizenry, the security architecture is much stronger. What recommendations would you give for local engagement and local structures to be developed that will address these security issues at the community levels? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bob, I hope the questions are not too many. If you forget any,
No, they're not. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go in a little bit. So this will be probably the last set of answers I can give.
Okay.
But the last question I think is very, and I'm going to use her word, erudite. I mean, everything has to start at the local level. Cooperation has to start at the local level. Muslims and Christians live together. They're neighbors. We have to collaborate together, both just as neighbors, as human beings, as people who are concerned about our kids and our future, and all that happens at the local level. And so, like I said to you before, there are a lot of people here in the United States who want to help, and the country of particular concern designation is their way of making a statement. We want to help, but the fact of the matter is the actual help is going to come at the local level. And so these kinds of meetings need to happen more often, and they need to happen more locally. And the Nigerian diaspora here in the United States is huge. It's very, very huge. It's a very large and very active community, and that would certainly be your starting point. But there are a lot of both Christian and Muslim group in this country who would be willing to, just sit down and talk and brainstorm, because in the end, the government cannot solve the problem. In the end, we have to protect ourselves first. And then, it's, as my wife reminds me all the time, when you get on an airplane, they tell you, put your own face mask on first and then help the people around you. And that's, I think, what we need to do. And I'm sorry that I'm going to have to get off in a second here, but so I want to thank everybody for their attention, for their questions. I'm happy to participate in more sessions, but most importantly, to bring more people into the discussion. And if we can do that, we will have at least started toward our objective of stopping the killing and stopping it from starting again. Because in the end, we don't want it just to stop tomorrow. We want it to end. And those are two different things.
All right.
Before you go, sir, can I just put in a little pitch? And I know we're going to continue this conversation. You spoke a lot about the need to come together and have a conversation on the way forward. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the diaspora community. So we would like to have that follow-up with you, because this is not a one-off conversation. We want the response to be strategic and impactful. And I like the fact that you started with resolution as opposed to talking about the problem. So this is a conversation that we would like to continue, whether it's part A, part B, or whatever it is. So can we have that follow-up with you from the diaspora and even from stakeholders in Nigeria to make sure that the strategy the US takes is what is beneficial to both Nigeria and the US?
I think, yes, of course. And most importantly, we need to engage the people, I think, here in the United States who push for the country of particular concern. We need them to be on these calls with you, because it's one thing to identify the problem. It's another thing to figure out how to fix it. And so this is going to be a long-term conversation. I hope we can keep it going. I think we can. And I'm happy to do whatever I can to help that process move along.
Can you get Marco Rubio for us?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I didn't hear the question.
Can you get Senator Marco Rubio for us so that he can speak to us on something like this, or any of the current serving legislators?
I will recommend it. You could always ask. You can't guarantee that he's going to say yes. You can't guarantee.
So, help us ask. We would like to have him because he was the one that sponsored the bill. Let's know what he knows and why he did it.
Okay. Well, actually, it was the president himself who did the CPC this time.
Okay, all right. At least we saw Marco Rubio saying that he has been on it.
Yeah, no. Marco Rubio is doing a very good job, and I know he's committed to this. But anyway, I do have to go, and so feel free to continue the conversation. But I have to run out.
Yeah, thank you. I'll definitely follow up with you. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Bye.
Pastor there. So we'll come back. We still have a couple of hands up. You may want to still ask your questions or make your comment. We still have time. I think Pastor is here. Maybe Pastor can take over and answer the questions.
Do I look like Marco Rubio too?
Pastor,
do I look like Marco Rubio too?
Yeah, if you can get Marco Rubio for us, it will be good to ask him, Oga, why did you do this? Okay, Henry Canterbury.
Jumoke will get him. The way she's looking, I know she can get him.
You know who is here? You know who is also here? I think Stephen Eneda is here as well. Yeah. I saw him on the platform, and I don't know if he's still here. I know he's worked very closely with Bob Dastro as well. And so he may have some insight and may be able to address some questions. I'm putting him on the spot because I didn't have this conversation with him before now, but I know he won't refuse Pastor Ito or anything. So,
well, I need $1 million, so let's see if he will answer that one.
Give you Pastor Eneda, well, maybe
So
no.
let Steve, let them ask the other questions. Maybe Steve can give his own perspective to those questions, because I do know that he did work with Bob Dastro. But then Jumoke should get Marco Rubio for us, and if possible, Donald Trump himself on this platform, so that he can find out what he's thinking. You understand?
Yeah.
And how he came about his own decisions, like Bob Dastro says. So, Pastor Steve, over to you, please.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Itwa and everyone here. Well, I have already asked Bob Dastro that he was diplomatic with his response, and I don't want to. And that diplomacy is important. And he was like, because any statement he makes in the public space will be scrutinized here. And first of all, I thought he would talk about the executive order of the president. And also, I was thinking he would talk about why U.S. is interested in flushing out terrorism in Nigeria. Well, the truth of the matter is, as we are talking, I can say of a fact that U.S. is preparing to neutralize terrorism, not just in Nigeria, but in the Sahel. And it's a comprehensive game plan. So that one, we should not relent to engage. And that is very, very important. Well, to get Secretary Rubio is also a question of asking request. So what will happen now is let ALG put in a request, and then we can actually give it to his office by tomorrow with the principal staff that we work with as well. The truth of the matter is that if Nigeria government is not engaging, civil society organizations like this is engaging. And for me, maybe we'll be able to resolve Nigeria problem as quickly as possible than Nigeria food dragging by trying to create social media boosts to confuse citizens. Whether we like it or not, terrorism is taking place in Nigeria. Whether we like it or not, there are IDPs camp. Whether we like it or not, people have been killed. So nobody wants terrorists to flourish. Even 2 days ago in Kogi State, even near Kaba, people have been killed, massacred by these elements. So I think where Bob Dastro left it off, and I will quickly say, make a comment on that. This one, the issue is like Al-Qaeda actually enter Nigeria, and on the intel, when Al-Qaeda is more dangerous than all of Boko Haram, ISIS West Africa, Al-Qaeda is about attacking the United States. So US is actually protecting her own interests when it comes to homeland security. So I was thinking Bob Dastro would speak to that, because the interest of US is also to protect herself from foreign invasion like 9/11. So what I'm just saying that Nigerians who are based in the United States are huge, and a lot of people are actually divided whether US, we don't want US to invade Nigeria. That is a no. But in other aspect, we are saying, and then Bob Dastro did not speak about the 17 actions that can be taken. One, which is Magnitsky Act. Magnitsky Act is that the sponsor of terrorism, which is being worked on by Congressman Riley Moore, who is actually that Trump and Tom Cole, the two reps. Trump said that they should give in information. As I'm telling you, many Nigerians are actually giving them information. And what that means is also that many government officials, non-state actors who have participated in sponsoring terrorism one way or the other in Nigeria will be prosecuted. And they have actually asking the UK government and France that they need their cooperation to confiscate such people's asset, investment, and also possible arrest and prosecution. So this is really like they cast the big net, but the truth of the matter is that America is not going to be in a boot on ground in Nigeria. So this is what I want to say, and we need to ask, right? At least this forum, I mean, we have all it takes to actually bring anybody except Trump and Vice President. Marco Rubio can actually engage because that is what he does effectively, but you can ask for such meeting. Well, oh, I'm available at so time or not, but that is a good starting point. Thanks.
Okay, so can I ask a question, Pastor Eneda? We would have that letter to you probably before the day runs out to Senator Marco Rubio.
Is
Or
it
is it?
Rubio or the
No,
other
it's
guy?
Ted Cruz. It's Ted Cruz.
It's Ted Cruz, not Rubio.
It's not Ted Cruz.
Who is Secretary of State? Rubio, right? Is the senator that we want, not the Secretary of State.
I think it was Ted Cruz that sponsored the bill, but I'll work with Pastor Eneda. But before you go, Pastor Eneda, I have a question, and I think this is really important. Actually, we're talking about these sanctions against individuals, and how do we have that conversation with not just the US, but other the global community to make sure that these people are identified and they are sanctioned, whether it's their finances, whether it's their homes that are confiscated, things like that. How do we ensure that the global community carries that threat out? Because I think that's one resolution to curb insecurity. Can somebody please unmute Pastor Eneda? Okay. Please go ahead, Pastor Eneda. We've unmuted you.
Yeah. Well, for me, Ted Cruz is a senator, and he can advise. But yes, what I would advise is that please do give your letter address to Ted Cruz. That is the easiest. But I would want a situation whereby you should also write a letter for attention. And what that means, it may not be on a Zoom. It could be on like maybe some people who are important, who understand the diplomacy, can actually meet with Rubio as well. So I write 2 letters now requesting for a meeting. Well, in other words, I think we can engage and we can shape a discussion in this regard. So I'm available and I will work.
Okay.
With this team. Thank you. So, and not just that, you can also say now we have a deadline in another 1 week for the report to be completed by Senator Tom Cole and Riley Moore that Trump has given the authority. So if you have any suggestions, what could be done? Because the truth of the matter is that certain people are going to be prosecuted for sponsoring and enabling terrorism in Nigeria. So if you have any other ideas, you send it. Then I will just give the chief of staff who is responsible for collation. I will send his email to you, Jumoke, and then you will take it from there. And then we can rally to see that what you are saying in Nigeria echoes with what is happening here in the United States. And you have a way to influence that. Thank you.
Can I have a follow-up question? You talked about a deadline. Can you kind of give the background of what that deadline is? And
No. It's a deadline that Trump gave Riley Moore and co. He gave them 2 weeks. Yeah,
okay,
so
he
that
gave
2
them
weeks
2 weeks to come up with this report.
So what I'm saying now is that if LG now has a suggestion, recommendation, we don't want US to invade for this reason, or we want US to support for this reason, and we want this. Depends. I can't tell you what you want. What I'm just saying that definitely will be delivered as ALG or whichever name from this forum to Tom Cole and Riley Moore. Fortunately, these are people that we have been working with for years, and we have access to it. What I'm saying is that I'll give you, Jumoke, I'll give you the email, phone number, and then we can chime in with the chief of staff to Tom Cole, so that you'll be able to give your suggestion. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, let's take the rest hands. Maybe they have comments or questions.
Oh. Okay, so the next person, the next hand that is up is Henry Kentebe. Please go ahead and ask your question. Are we still sticking to the 1 minute rule?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Kentibe.
Hello, good afternoon here. I'm joining from Ontario, Canada. Unfortunately, I couldn't make my comment to Mr. Bob. However, we need to actually put the problem in Nigeria into proper context. And when there's a crime, you have to look for the motive. What is the motive of the violence in Nigeria? And I was able to just put it in three contexts, which is cultural. Some people talk about the Fulani climate change, what have you. We look at the criminality aspect of this motive, which is the banditry. Some people are just making business out of it. And the third one is the ideology, which is the jihad, that some people are also. And the reason for all this is because Nigerian government is failing. We are almost getting to a failed state, and people are just taking laws into their hands. There is no repercussion for crime, and that's where we are. I'm very, very happy that Mr. Bob was nailing one point, and it's unfortunate that the Nigerian society has not come to that realization. We cannot build from the top. We have to only build from the local. It's from bottom up. And that was why I was saying, where is the local police? Where is the state police? Because the federal police in Canada, the RCMP, just gathers intelligence. That's all. The FBI just gathers intelligence. They are federal police. They gather intelligence. That's all. What do we have in Nigeria? Do I doing federal police doing enforcement? It's never done. It's unheard of. People that stay in this developed society, some of us that live in Western society, we understand this context. You cannot solve crime from federal. You cannot post a CP from Gombe to Ogun State to go and do policing. The guy doesn't understand the language. The guy will take maybe 5 years to even get accommodation, to get acclimatized with the society. It's unheard of. And one of the suggestions is that the US has to probably compel Nigeria to restructure. We have to develop the federating units. That is the solution, the political solution, the economic solution, the social solution to our problem. It's unfortunate that I can't put this up to Mr. Bob, but I could see that he was also talking about local. Everything is local. Your solution is local. So why are we pretending as if we don't know the solution? The solution is local. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and appreciate your passion. And I'm sure we would have an opportunity to chime into ongoing conversations. The next person's hand that is up is Pastor Funke Awolowo. We have about 7 more hands, so I'm putting up the timer, and you will hear that chime. Please, let's respect it. Thank you. Go ahead, Ma.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I want to, first of all, I wanted to say to Bob, to say to President Trump, we really appreciate that intervention. I've been praying for it because the North has really, the churches in the North have really suffered. You know, it's my prayer, and I really appreciate him, and God bless him real good. Secondly, I was watching Christina Paul during the week, and she did indicate, every war, whether you intervene, has something we call spoils of war. And spoils of war means when they come in, they're going to be going with something. And then she didn't speak, she and her husband, of a scramble for Africa. Africa is the place, and Okojo-Iweala said it, that 30% of the minerals of the world, it belongs here. And 70% of arable land is also here in Nigeria. It's time for us to get serious. That intervention is needful. And indeed, there's a scramble for Africa. And I just wanted to have more clarity with Bob, because nobody does anything for nothing. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Pastor Funke. May I, Prince Unsofo, please go ahead with your comment or question. We've asked you to unmute.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Pastor Tua, for creating this platform and for everybody. I also would have loved to throw this question to Bob, but is it possible to have an a kind of covert operation that is sponsored in tackling things like this? Would they be willing to sponsor such something that is on the ground? People who are passionate, people who are recruited from underground, but they are sponsored because you will need, such sponsorship. Since we are talking about bottom up. Thank you very much. I don't know if you got what I mean.
Yes, if it is possible to have like on the ground part of like some kind of covert operation that can work with any agency. Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Both
Okay.
intelligence gathering, both
Okay.
sniping and all that. Yeah. Is it possible?
Yeah, he did talk about that a lot of the information that was gotten is from the ground. I mean, was from the locals, those that are directly involved in such situations. He did mention that they work with local informants or local people. I don't want to call them informants, but those that are impacted also do share their testimonies. Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying not to be too direct, but what I mean is, a counter force, but that is the good guys, as it were.
Got it.
But they are sponsored. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think I understand. Thank you. Boluwaji, please go ahead with your question. We've asked you to unmute. Miss or Mr. Boluwaji, please go ahead and unmute. Okay, if we don't get you to unmute, we'll move on to, okay, go ahead. Please unmute. We've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, I'll move on to Auntie Bola. Please go ahead, Auntie Bola.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Okay, good evening. Is that
all right? Can I have the floor now?
Yes, you have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Okay, ma. All right, thank you, ma. Prof, thank you. Pastor Itua, good evening, sir. My question actually goes to the observational report that Pastor Itua made the other time when he was talking about the national police being closer to the community. And I want to use Ondo State as a point of reference. I'm speaking from Akure, Ondo State now. From the community base where I am to some places in this vicinity, there are very far distance police posts that cannot curb any insurgency. For example, from Bolo Ruduro police post to Likokodia, to Tekule, to Asoto Fibe, to Asoto Oja, to Wenatepo, all these areas, there is no police presence or police post at all. Now, if we are talking of any insurgency, how do we cope? Whom would they run to? That was first one, that the rural areas is being abandoned. And the criminals and the miscreants are all in this axis. While I'll go straight to the other point that Prof made, I say thank you for your support, please.
Thank you very much. Auntie Bola, please go ahead, ma.
Thank you. My own comment is very simple. I was going to ask the Oyibo guy, there is something called exchange of information because I retired from a law enforcement agency. So what I suspect is, has America given Nigeria some information and the information was not used or not? And normally, both of them should carry out the operation together. That is what I am used to. I don't know whether it has changed now because I retired 20 years ago. Exchange of information is very, very important. And you cannot just go to somebody, you have to involve the local people, the local enforcement people to work with you. But from experience, our own country bungles information. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. I believe he mentioned exchange of information. I think every government, they do share intelligence report, but I can't answer for him. There is an FAQ that we put together, and Faye, if you have that FAQ, if you could post it, I do believe that it has that, it responds to that question, that there is shared information, intel report between different countries. Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Akindeko to please go ahead and ask his question. Good evening, Uncle. Please go ahead with your question or your comments.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, Jumoke, and Pastor Etua Kushe. Well done with this ALG. Very quickly, most of us grew up with these Americans, British, and so on and so forth, from childhood to very late in advanced period of our lives. And we were as good, if not smarter than they were in everything we did. We all know that the Nigerian problem is very complex. We all know that America has the CIA, which has the best possible information gathering network worldwide. If they want to come to Nigeria, they want to come and help us kill terrorists, not Christian genocide. Everybody knows that when you come to a complex country like Nigeria and you drop the word Christian or versus Islam versus this, you're going to have a lot of problems. And my belief, I mean, my friend that was talking, young friend that was talking just now about the difficulty of securing our communities, we are addressing that at different levels. But what I would like this platform to do is to actually get off this, let's bring in the Americans to come and solve our problems. Our problem is one of restructuring, as has been said. And it is for us to push to organize this country to become restructured so that the Muslims can have what they want peacefully in their own area. The Christians can be left alone. When my family and friends in Jos and so on and so forth found it difficult to live there peacefully, we moved them home because the structure of the Nigerian country does not protect your people when they're too far away from your area of comfort. So in a nutshell, thank you, America. We will use your threat for political mileage here in Nigeria to develop some sort of a system that will make things better. But we are not in a position to change the structure in Nigeria unless what? Unless we actually support our own president to know that he has to listen to us and do things the right way. We can do that by voting for him when the elections come, or finding the person, for example, that is there now, warts and all. We should all get behind him and read him the Riot Act and stop making us look like idiots in front of American half-wits who normally cannot hold a candle to the amount of intellect that any of us on this platform has. I'm sorry I'm getting a bit passionate about the whole thing, but I do hope I've made my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Professor Grange, please go ahead, Ma.
Oh, thank you very much. Let me start with the words of the last speaker. I go along with you 100% that a lot of what has to be done by us internally. Having said that, we should take advantage of the opportunity that has been given to us at the global level to articulate our problems and seek collaboration wherever we can get it. So I want us to look at it from the point of view of what is happening now. We are evolving from a multilateral type of intervention to bilateral. Bilateral with America. In the past, it would not normally have been with the UN, and that would be after everything has broken down. Then the UN will come with their forces and invade the country. Now it's happening now everywhere. So we are very fortunate that somehow America has come into this at the time that nobody else has done, and it is up to us to make sure that nobody else comes in and we solve our problems ourselves. So in solving our problem, I want us to look at it from the point of view of our governance, and not just at federal level, but at state level. What are the state governments doing? They are the ones supposed to be responsible for security. They get security votes. I mean, I don't even know how much they must have squandered on security votes, but nothing came out of it. So that is something we have to deal with. Secondly,
Mom, can you please round up? Because
okay,
if you
my
can
dear.
just round up in 10 seconds.
Our party system, we have to look at it because from what is happening, it looks as though we have a very weak opposition. Thirdly, from the diaspora angle, and I'm glad that Jumoke has already spoken about that. It is a very, very important aspect of our intervention. So there are various things for us to do. We have a lot of work to do. So I shall give up now and give us time to do it. Thank you, Jumoke.
Thank you. I want to sound, I'm Angel's advocate, but I want to put it out there. I've heard a lot of we can solve our own problems. Why haven't we been solving our problems when children are being killed, girls are being raped, women are being made childless, and it's been going on for years? Where have we been that we haven't solved our own problems? Why haven't we rallied around as a community to solve our own problems? How many more Nigerians is it going to take for us to be attentive? And that's one of the things that I look at us and I'm like, where are we? What the US has done is to bring awareness. It's what we have failed to do, which is to acknowledge the fact that our citizens, our siblings, our brothers and sisters, no matter where it is that they are from, are being slaughtered on a daily basis. And we have basically looked the other way. So the global community is now bringing our attention to it. And the next comment we have is we can solve our own problems. Mr. President talked about the Chibok girls that were carted away over 10 years ago, about 13 years ago. We still don't know where they are. Why aren't we solving our own problems? What about those in IDP camp? They're in the millions. They are not in the thousands that have been displaced, and they are probably never going back home. Why haven't we risen up to solve our own problems? So when we hear, and it is important, let's also put this out there. Nigeria is important to the world because if Nigeria fails, there are 220-something million people that will find a place to go. We would disrupt all of Africa because who is going to happen? So there is an interest in ensuring that Nigeria does not fail. I think we should start looking at those, the thought process behind it. We are not solving our own problems. Our intelligence is not coming through. I'm sorry to say, we are academic in our intelligence. How do we begin to solve our problems and make sure that another Nigerian life is not lost? I get passionate about this, so apologies for my passion. I'm going to ask Mr. James to please go ahead. James Pam, please go ahead and ask your question or make your comment. And Pastor Sonny, do you want to take over? Please.
Just go ahead. I think you have spoken very, very passionately, and that's a very good comment you put in. Let James Pam go on.
Go ahead, Mr. Pam.
Allow him to unmute.
Okay.
I've asked him to unmute.
All right. Yes, I have. Yes, thank you very much for organizing this program. I am speaking from Jos, and as you all know, Plateau State has been the epicenter of these violence, the senseless killings. Now, we have been organizing here, seeing how this thing can be brought to an end. We have done what we can to alert the world out there, our legislators, we have contacts abroad. We have got our position
our wants, our demands articulated. And we were very happy to hear about the designation of Nigeria as a CPC. And there are one or two things we would like the Americans to know as they intervene. These are the things that the people on the epicenter want. It's not too difficult. The first thing is let the killings end, let the violence end. Just stop it. Thereafter, many of us are off our ancestral homes. We want to go back to our ancestral homes. If anybody is occupying it, we want him to be asked to leave. We have too many IDP camps around. Thousands of people, every local government headquarters has an IDP camp. So we have articulated our position. Can I please have a contact, your contact, if it's an email, so I can forward this articulated position to you for onward transmission? We're talking about a week more to go. Can I have a place where I can just forward it in a matter of hours?
Yes,
And
we are going to. I'm
yes,
going to put a contact in the group chat for you. You can send it to info. I'll just send you my email address. Second VC.
Okay. IFO, you said?
No, I'm going to put it in there. Second Vice President at Tri-Africa. I'll put it in the chat room.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we have, I didn't ask Inze, did Inze speak earlier on? That's why I didn't ask him to unmute. Okay.
Yes, he has spoken earlier on. Let's go on to
Okay, so then
Abayomi.
let's
Yes.
take Mr. or Miss Abayomi. We've asked you to unmute.
Good evening, Sir Ma. Thank you for this opportunity and for this platform. Now, I want to speak to the suggestion that we can solve our problem. It's as if we are not looking at the scope of this operation. If we are talking about community policing, by the time we build the police post and all this stuff, who are the police we are going to post there? It's not the same ill-equipped policemen that we have on ground currently. I think before we look at community approach to this issue, we must first accept any help that we can get, because it is clear from all indications that our institutions are currently compromised. So there is no way we can take out this. It's like somebody that has a cancer problem and is refusing help from a professional, saying that I would rather go and be treated by an health center because it's closer to my home than to go to a general hospital or a specialist hospital. So I think the Americans offering to help us now, yes, they are not the final solution to this thing. If we can utilize the assistance, the help they want to give to us, maybe going forward after the help, we can now look at community approach to preventing future occurrence. But if we are really going to deal with insurgency in Nigeria at the scale at which they are currently operating, we need every help we can get from every sincere assistance. Even if they are going to take some things away from us in exchange for this, yes, we might need to count our cost. But I don't think there is anything they are going to take away that is not currently being taken away by those who also hide under this insurgency to steal mineral resources from Nigeria. So I think we should actually encourage this and really look inward and know that possibly for those of us that have been praying, maybe this is God answering our prayer to bring and help to us. Because not even our president currently understand the scope of this. The president gave an address about a week and a half ago, where I was saying that people are now sleeping peacefully, people are returning to their homes, no more IDP. But the truth is, all Nigerians are paying the price. For example, now people cannot go to farm in the northern areas. Most of them have become Okada riders in Lagos, Keke riders, those who are supposed to be farming and be producing food. So that we have high cost of living in Nigeria currently is not just because of the economy. It's because some farmers cannot even go and produce in the farm. Where you have maybe 1,000 farmers feeding the nation and they are reduced to 200, definitely food output will be affected also. So this thing is affecting us in every area. So before we look at community approach to this problem, I think we must look at this thing as a terminal problem that needs the assistance of every professional before we now come to the community level to prevent future occurrence. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. That is my submission.
Thank you very much. And I want to just add something that we may have been missing. Bob Dastro did say that the US is willing to come train us on how to help ourselves. They have also been sending aids. I don't know if we missed that comment. For years, they've been sending funds to help with security and things like that. We didn't refuse it, but it went to individuals, and he talked about follow the money, which he's been working on for years. Billions of dollars have entered Nigeria, and they don't know where it went. It hasn't shown. There's no deliverable for what those fundings were used for. So let's just put that in view as well. Professor Ajayi, good to see you, sir. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Go ahead with your comment, sir.
Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate your work, even though I took a leave of absence from you generally, and then you continue with that one. We be saying that we have to actually save ourselves. That is true. We should take Trump style of leadership the way it is. It's a will of indicting our rulers and again warning Nigerians. These are the things that are happening there. You could not just keep quiet and allow this to happen. What is going on in Nigeria, every single one of us, we know about that. And we allow the leaders, well, I call them the rulers, not leaders anyway, because if they are leaders, they will think about me, others, my friends, others, what will happen to us tomorrow. But they are just, like we mentioned now, they are just consistently putting everything into their own family, into their own pocket. And it's not something that we should be proud of. We in diaspora have to work very hard. We have to work extra hard to bring Nigeria back to where it's supposed to be. Nigeria has been blessed. We are talking about this security in this country. Come on. We know that we have to decentralize security system in Nigeria because each local government, they know details of how to secure their environment, not the federal government, where they just be looking for allocation of money. But I wish we will have enough time to actually discuss more details about this. Keep on doing what we are doing very right. And at the same time, we should actually blame ourselves continuously and make our contribution. Thanks so much. God bless you.
Welcome back from your sabbatical, sir. We'll be following up with you on advancing this conversation on the role of the diaspora. It's very, very, very important because we can't neglect the importance of the diaspora community and what we can do at a time such as this. Please go ahead, Mr. Etan, with your comment, and then Pastor Sonny will close, right? Yes. Mr. Etan, we asked you, please go ahead with your comment and we'll, yeah.
Hi, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I think the first thing I'd like to say is that we shouldn't be naive in thinking that any nation has a moral or altruistic interest in the well-being of any other nation. All nations, by virtue of their nationhood, are focused on their own self-interest. There are very few countries, I would mention maybe Norway, that has truly altruistic interests in the affairs of any other nation. Most nations, the US, Nigeria, the UK, the whole of the European Union, are focused on what is going to benefit them. And their interference or their involvement with other nations is primarily for their own self-interest. So I think I want to make that clear. And I think the Secretary of State, the ex-Assistant Secretary of State, is very conscious of this. And he is a political as well as a political animal as well. So what he says ultimately will be what is actually in the interest of the US, and we shouldn't expect anything less. What I am going to say is in the interest of Nigeria. Jumoke, earlier you raised the issue of when will our problems be solved in Nigeria. Nigeria is less than 100 years old. America as a nation is approaching 300 years old. They have 40 million people that are still receiving food stamps out of a population of 300 million. If you let that sink in a bit, you will see that they still have problems. They have over 15,000 deaths, homicides every year due to gun issues. So these kinds of problems occur in nations. It takes time to resolve them, and it's actually difficult to believe that those problems will ever be solved. We will try to improve, and we'll continue to improve. Some nations have more success than others. So one of the things I'd like to do is encourage us to be a little bit patient. Even as painful as it is, the world has been through 2 world wars where millions, tens of millions of people have died. So while not diminishing our own situation, I think it's important to put it in a perspective, in a worldly perspective. So what do we do about this? I think that is really where we should be addressing. The first thing is our own self, our sense of self, how we perceive ourselves and what we project to the rest of the world should be one of positivity. No matter how bad things are or how bad we think things are, what Nigeria has achieved and what Nigerians have achieved is hugely immense. We have achieved a tremendous amount. I'm part of a bilateral chamber of commerce where I'm an executive director, and this is the message we promote about Nigeria. So I think the first thing is that when we talk about ourselves, we should talk about ourselves positively. It's not hiding under a rock. It's not burying our heads in the sand. It is about the image we want to project about ourselves. And when we prophesy that image comes to pass. So when we start to believe in ourselves, I think that is the very, very first thing that will lead us to some success. So when will those problems be solved?
Okay,
those problems are being solved. I'm grateful for the the attention which President Trump comment has made. But look, he's a political animal. What he's doing is for his own personal benefit and the benefit of America, or the America that he represents. So I don't think we should deceive ourselves that those comments and any interference in Nigeria is really primary for our benefit. So what do? Let us leverage what we have. Nigeria is a very small country economically with respect to America. So how do we address this issue of another nation threatening our sovereignty? Because that's what it is. For America to interfere militarily in Nigeria, for whatever reason they give, is a threat to our sovereignty. So what can we do to prevent that while taking the help which we believe they can provide? Is use our leverage, okay? The same kind of leverage that America has, the economic power, the sanctions, the tariffs, and so on. What is it that America wants? And somebody else has mentioned this before. We don't live in a insular world. We have to share the world with other people. We have to compromise on things. What can we use as leverage in determining how we can receive the help that we want to receive from them? And I believe the government of Nigeria is aware of this, and they're doing something about this. And I think it's important that we've seen the reaction of our president since this comment came through, and we can see that it's creating some things which we believe will be good for us. And I think that's what we should watch and what we should pressure our government to continue to act on. I'm sorry for taking up so much time. Thanks very much.
Pastor Sonny, I'm going to just make one comment and then hand over to you. And this is the strength of a nation is not measured by its most powerful citizens, but how it treats its most vulnerable. So I agree that, yes, Nigeria, we should promote Nigeria, but I think we shy away from the fact that it is more than 69% of Nigerians that are vulnerable. 69%. I think some statistics even have it much higher than that. And we cannot shy away from that. We cannot continue to promote a country that does not protect its most vulnerable. let's be real. I love Nigeria and I would always love Nigeria because it's my country of birth. But we have a responsibility to our citizens to speak truth to power and to solve issues. We can all sit here because we are not impacted. We are not in the Northeast. We are not in the Northwest. We are not in those areas that have been ravaged. That a young, I heard about a 10-year-old boy that walked across 3 states and he was traumatized because his parents were slaughtered right in front of him. These are the realities of a lot of Nigerians. So while we are promoting the good of Nigeria, let's also speak about the bad of Nigeria so that we can address those issues and not live in this glass-colored house that everybody thinks we should live in. So I'm very passionate about the lowest citizens. I'm passionate about girls that can't go to school because their parents are afraid that they are going to be taken away. So these are realities, and we are not the US, we are not the UK, we are Nigeria. So let's focus on who we are, what our situation is, and let's start to solve those issues. Thank you. Over to you, Pastor Sonny. Let me take this announcement and then you would give it to you. So we meet here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Different topics and different speakers. But ALG, we put a link in here for you to get involved in this conversation. We are looking to get everyone on board so that different opinions, different perspectives, but how do we synergize everything for that nation that we're looking to build. So please fill that link. The form is an interest form. We will definitely get in touch with you and then we'll make sure that you get the information about this Thursday session and other initiatives that we are working on here at ALG. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Pastor Jumoke. Great. Pastor Eto is still around?
Please go ahead.
Okay, all right. We just want to thank everybody. We'll leave all other comments for the after party, and I think the after party today would be a bit very, interesting. We really want to thank everyone that has taken the time to join us today on this platform to get more insight about leadership doings, whether they are failure or they are wins. And then we bring experts to speak to issues, just like we did Bob Dastro today. And like Jumoke said, we meet here every Thursday, same time, same link. Thank you all for your contributions, for everyone that spoke. I want to also thank the back office, like Pastor will say, all those that made this possible from the back, and also thank Pastor for establishing this very platform to make sure people speak freely to issues that are affecting all of us. Nigeria is our country. We all love Nigeria. That's why we are all speaking passionately about the things we are doing. Though people may have different views, different perspectives, let's all chime in. By the time we harvest everything together, I'm sure we'll be able to get the best cost of action. So whether you spoke for, against, neutral, it's okay. We appreciate everyone. Do have a nice rest of the week and see you again next week. God bless you. So we will disconnect from YouTube now and we would say the meeting has officially come to an end. However, a few people stay for what they call the after party, where they have informal conversation. Very, very informal. Nobody records that, I hope. And you can say what you want. So thank you very much, everyone. God bless you.
Thank you.
Jumoke?
I'm here.
Okay.
Pastor Olu, can you disconnect YouTube, please?
Okay, I'll do that now.
Thank you, sir.